What are some of the characteristics of your favorite superhero? Are they smart? Are they brave? Are they strong? Look at Batman, he's super crafty. Or Wonder Woman, she's always acting in honesty and integrity. Superman just always does the right thing, no matter what it is, even if it costs him. And all of these superheroes are brave, strong, and they always do things for the good of other people. Now, all of these things that we mentioned, all these characteristics of a superhero, if we look at them in light of the Christian faith, they're virtues. My name is David Zamora, and we're going to be studying the virtues, and we're going to look at meekness in particular as a virtue. So, how can we say that meekness is a virtue if meekness does not look like all of these cool superhero things? Meekness isn't driving through a burning building, is it? Meekness isn't kicking the bad guy's butt. Or is it? So meekness is the virtue that moderates our use of anger. Teaches us how to use anger in the right way, in the right time. So meekness actually enables all of these virtuous acts, all of these heroic things to take place, because if we're acting in justified anger and right anger, we're not exploding all of the time and letting all of that energy go for something that's not useful, where peace and patience could have obtained the same end. So if we look at virtue, virtue is situated in between two extremes, two vices. So the deficiency of meekness would be timidness or cowardice, never acting in anger, never defending anybody else, never standing up for yourself or other people. But then the extreme of excess would be always acting in anger, always yelling, always fighting when peace and diplomacy could have been put into effect. So these two extremes are vices, but right between, in the middle, you find the virtue of meekness, the moderated, appropriate use of anger in the right time, in the right place, in the right way. So let's get this clear. Meekness is not timidity. It's not being cowardly. If a meek person sees a justified reason to be angry, they're going to act on that reason. Say somebody's has been committed an injustice. The meek person will stand up and defend that person, but then go back and be peaceful and be calm. The meek person will solve a problem tactfully if it's possible and if the situation calls for it. But if there's a need for the meek person to become angry, to show that sense of anger, he's not acting out of meekness in being angry. He's acting in accordance with his virtue of meekness. So let's take Jesus, for example. When in the cleansing of the temple in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus flipped the money tables and he let people go. Let's read this. And Jesus entered the temple of God and drove out all who sold and bought in the temple. And he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold pigeons. This is a perfect example. The model of virtue, the model of meekness, Jesus Christ, is flipping tables, is basically just throwing everybody out because they defiled the place of God. They defiled the place of his Father. Was Jesus Christ not being virtuous? No, he was acting in virtue. In defending and keeping sacred the house of God, he saw that was a justified reason to be angry, to go and tell people, this is not right. He acted in accordance with the reason and the situation. What the situation demanded was anger. And in the same way, if we see an injustice being committed against somebody, if we see a reason to be angry, it is our responsibility to go and show that anger and to go fight for somebody else. In all other circumstances, Jesus acted with kindness. He returned insult with kindness. He did not fight back. He completely embraced every kind of thing that he took had to challenge, and all the challenges that he had to face, and he faced them with patience, with love, and with peace. Meekness gets a bad rap in society. Non-Christians and atheist thinkers like Nietzsche, among others, really think that meekness was called a virtue by Christians just to keep them at bay so that they didn't challenge hierarchy or go against the status quo. Being meek is countercultural. No one really wants to have themselves be stepped all over, and they are not about to go and defend other people's rights when they feel like their rights are being violated. They think that everybody's individual opinion should be heard, tolerated, and incorporated into society. And as soon as somebody thinks that otherwise is happening, they immediately resort to anger. They say, you know what, my rights are being violated, I'm going to fight. I'm going to get upset and get angry. But then not really care about what the effects on other people are. There's little concern or thought for the other. And modern people think that being meek is a symbol of weakness or just being a general wimp. But the Christian perspective doesn't see meekness in this light at all. Jesus was the example of meekness on earth. He said, "Learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart." Virtues are habits that dispose us to be the best version of ourselves, and they aid us in our imitation of Christ. In being meek, we're able to really be the people we were meant to be. People that love God, love others, and always defend the rights of other people, but also do not act out of anger or out of sheer wrath when the situation doesn't call for it or it's not necessary. And modern society likes to claim that they're the OGs when it comes to defending vulnerable populations, but this has always been a Christian practice, straight from the gospel. Father Cantalamessa offers this insight. Paganism exalts the sacrifice of the weak for the benefit of the strong and the advancement of life. Christianity exalts the sacrifice of the strong for the benefit of the weak. This is meekness. Meekness doesn't prevent us from having concern for the victim or taking the side of the weak and oppressed or standing up for the defense of life that is threatened. Meekness gives us the freedom to show an appropriate amount of anger to injustices in order for us to act with acts of virtue and heroism and love. So let's wrap it up. Go back from the superhero example from the beginning. What if the superheroes just nonstop just started acting out of all their crazy superhero powers and just started shooting laser eyes whenever they saw fit just because they could and they wanted to? Or they use their powers and their strength and their bravery in order to bully other people or to make other people fear them or for respect or honor for their own names. Then we wouldn't admire them as superheroes because it's self-interested. In the same way, meekness enables us to act virtuously because in all other circumstances we act and we allow the things that happen to us to not result in this sense of unjustified anger and wrath. Instead, when somebody acts with hatred towards us, we react with love. But when we see in a situation somebody else is being defiled, the place of God, the name of God is being defiled, then we have a responsibility to act in charity and in love, but also to show that sense of anger. The superheroes were in control of the temper 100% of the time. In the same way, we should be in control of our tempers 100% of the time in order to have those moments of heroism and also those moments when nobody really knows it, but they're being superheroes. So let's put on our regular civilian clothes, just like Diana Prince is Wonder Woman, Clark Kent is Superman, Bruce Wayne is Batman. Nobody would know that they were the ones that are saving the day. So I'm going to leave you with this quote from St. John Chrysostom on meekness, just for some inspiration on how we can live out meekness in our lives. Nothing is more powerful than weakness, for as fire is extinguished by water, so a mind inflated by anger is subdued by meekness. By meekness, we practice and make known our virtue, and also